Hey Tankers, Bonsai Duck here. So I completed FrontLines, the first stage of 2021, right? And I told you, I gave you my thoughts prior to it, but I really couldn't say how I was going to feel about things because I hadn't played anything. And so I finally played a whole week, and I have my thoughts. Did I do good? Well, I completed the stages. I didn't play this one, you know, hard out, balls to the wall, because really there was nothing for me to gain. So I had a very enjoyable week of playing the mode that I really enjoy. I love Frontlines. I think it's a great mode. I think I can tell you right now. I think wargaming is doing it a disfavor. I love the big maps. I actually like the longer games. As opposed to the turbo games that you get in randoms. The ability to repair yourself, I think, is good. I like it. It's not that bad. I know, but it's not the purest version of the game. And is it a little arcadish? Yes, I'll be honest with you. But it's just a mode that I enjoy. Now, I wouldn't want to play it every night. I'll be honest with you. I don't mind doing it for a week, but I mean, I was toast by the end of the week, and really had to just stop and say, "Poof, okay, I'm done. I completed it. I'm done." I we'll go through my highlights of it, right? So, but we'll do some comparison to previous seasons. I went back into the basically the wargaming website time machine, and found how wargaming has changed the rewarding of Frontlines, and that'll add into my overall conspiracy theory that wargaming is getting cheaper as we go. But let's deal with what this session brought to us this time. So anyway, here we go. All right, so here we can see the tanks that I played in all of Frontlines, right? I played 2 hours a day, roughly, sometimes three, but mainly two, for 4 days, right? So as we can see, I played my T-44-100 quite a bit, and it was very productive for me. Made a lot of good credits, and was able to be very mobile in the game, and very, very helpful. But I spent a lot of time in the first few days trying to find the tanks that worked well for me. I also did some grinding in my TNH. I have it listed here as the 150, but it's the 105, the tier 8. And used that quite a bit. And my approach in playing the mode was that at the start of the game was obviously have a heavy, go either cap or defend the first set of bases, and then move to the mediums where you're using much more of your mobility to get around the maps. And as we can see, when I move into the tier 9s, as we start looking over towards the right, the tier 9's E50 was the one that I played a lot. It was mobile enough for me. It had enough armor to withstand the other tier 9s that I was getting into, and it was just a really good tank for me. Both these tanks, a majority of the tanks that I played all have really good crews in them. So, but as you can see, by tank, obviously the T-44-100 was my most profitable tank, and this is by credits. And then of course the E50 and the TNH 105 and the 50 TP. So I played other tanks and lights and TDs and stuff, and just wasn't as profitable. TDs didn't seem to be as beneficial for me this year, simply because of the speed of which by the time I would really fall back into to use, say, my Scorpion, another second zone had already been captured. So now I was starting to see a lot of tier 9s that had a lot more speed, and I just couldn't get set up correctly. So next we'll look at the totals by tier. So all right, so here we have the totals by tier, and obviously I played a lot more of my tier 8s than I did tier 9. All right, and these are credits earned in the tier 8s compared to the credits that I earned in my tier 9s. Now I found that with the addition of the tier 9s in the game, that a good tier 8 with a good crew and obviously a fairly smart player, which I don't account myself as being an overly smart player, but when it comes to Frontlines, I do have a good idea of where to go and do what. You can be just as profitable in your tier 8 and last longer and last just as long playing the tier 9s. Now, obviously, if you're going to run in, you're attacking the fortifications and you're running into T95s and hold down Conquerors and hold down AE phase 1s and stuff like that, you're going to want to bring a bigger tank, obviously. At least be competitive with these guys. But on general, the tier 8s were able to work. And yes, there were times I may have had to dip into some gold in gold rounds. I carry a small amount on each of my tanks. But normally I was able to by flanking and stuff like that, able to make the standard rounds work in my tier 8s. Again, there are those exceptions where you have to jump into the tier 9 just to be able to do what you got to do. So next we'll look by the totals by the type, or was it a heavy, medium, that so on and so forth. Okay, so as we can see, obviously my medium tanks, where I tend to excel as a player. Obviously, I played those a lot. Heavies, like I said, I would start off with a heavy, and not normally would I end if I was in, say, a defensive side of the map. I normally would not end the game in a heavy. I would generally tend to keep playing my mediums, but obviously the mediums were much more profitable for me. That's where I spent a majority of my time. And TDs and lights, so on and so forth. But as you can see from the graph, this is where I gained most of my credits. We saw how I did credit wise, and that that is what it is, and it's different for different players. I was platooning a lot with Mayhem, and he was making a ton of credits, but he was playing a lot more games than I was. And he was, I think he's going to walk out with, I had 7 million. He had extra, more than that. I'm not sure how much he got. But if we look at FrontLines over the different iterations, right? So in 2019, 2020, and 2021, what's changed? And leads me to push towards the fact of Wargaming's tightening the purse strings again. So let's take a look at 2019 and let's see what we got then. So in 2019, you started off and you got credits and personal or equipment and personal reserves and stuff like that. You had very little of the directives, okay? And it was just, we got experience and credit bonuses and stuff like that. And through the prestiging levels, you could get, bonds and gold and, of course, our little trinket rewards, stuff like that. So it just seemed to be much more profitable to play the game. And I think that's what really attracted everybody. Obviously, then it was a brand new mode at that time, and it was something different. But the amount of credits and rewards that you got made it well worthwhile. And granted, it was only at a portion of the year. It wasn't all year long, right? So that made it well worth it, in my opinion. And again, it was all tier 8. So, I mean, you can sit there and play your premiums and just, break up the credits on top of what you were getting for rewards. So now looking at 2020, we see that, okay, they brought in some special missions. Okay. They didn't change so much the rewards. They took away, it wasn't 30 now, it was 15 tiers. And they kind of took away the progression, the prestige levels, and kind of, and just made it, you worked your way through the levels. Okay. So they changed it a little bit, took away some of the, obviously the gold aspect that you were getting for the prestige levels, took away, the amount of credits, credits that they were giving you for the different tiers, so on and so forth. But they were still giving some pretty good bonds. You got tokens for the tanks, stuff like that. But it was still a fairly profitable game. And then, of course, then they had, special daily missions, okay, which made it, that much better. You could get more bonds. You could get, some more bonds and some personal reserves. You could get, even more reserves and just a lot of bonds. It made it very bond heavy. And I think that was because people weren't getting enough bonds at the time. They weren't grinding bonds. The very good players and the clan war players were getting a lot of bonds, but normal average Joes like myself weren't making a ton of bonds just because we weren't able to do it that often. So of course that came out heavily in Frontlines. And like I said, they added the missions. Then if you achieved your goal and you made it past up to 15, then you had other missions where you could keep getting some rewards. Then we moved to 2021 and everything changed. Everything changed. Now, and I realize that they say that this is a test, but I think what they're really testing is the tier 9 aspect. Now they've said, well, you know what? We're not going to give all those great rewards that we were giving, but you get battle pass points. Okay. All right. You get battle pass points. And when I started in 2021, I was at battle pass 111, right? Now, I'll be honest with you. I'd purchased stages previously just simply because I don't play enough to play all the way through it. So I'd purchased stages, but I didn't purchase any stages while Frontline was on. I just wanted to see how far I would get. And I started at 100, I think I was level 110, okay. And I made it to 118, 119. So 9 levels. All right. I got those rewards. Okay, fine. I think I got like 480 total rewards, battle pass points, game points plus my 20 that you would get for every level that you completed, right? Something like that. Anyway, I did fine, but it didn't really just make it all that great. And at the point, what I got in the battle pass, I got some coin on one of them, but mainly I got, training books and stuff like that. So to me, was it really worth it to get the battle pass points for playing Frontline? No, it wasn't. I don't think that was a big, overwhelming driver to make me want to play this mode. It certainly wasn't the reward that I was looking for. But then you got a bunch of directives. Well, whoop-de-freaking do. Directives. Directives cost bonds, okay? And if you use them, fine. Okay? I can understand if you're playing, if you're trying to 3-mark and you're balls out trying to make this work, just get every piece of performance you can from your tank, then yeah, you're going to run some directives, but you don't have an endless supply of them, and they cost bonds to buy. Whereas, food and stuff like that, that costs credits, and it's easier to grind credits than it is to grind bonds. I don't care battle pass or not. It's not easy. You don't build up bonds real quickly unless you're just a super unicum player or something like that. The average Joe isn't going to build up a ton of bonds as quickly as they're going to build up a ton of credits. So giving me directives, something that I really won't use. I might use it once in a blue moon. And I really didn't even use them that often in Frontlines, is useless. It's useless to me, and it's not a reward that I find attractive enough to, play a different mode. Now, that said, I would still play Frontlines, but not because of the reward system anymore. The reward system is absolute garbage. Plus, they took away the extra missions. They took away the missions that so once you achieved level 15, there was absolutely no reason to keep playing for me. The battle pass points weren't enough to do it. The credits, yeah, okay. But there wasn't that reward system to say, hey, let's go up and play it again. So that's where the progression is going. Well, what's going to happen next time? What are they going to do next time? Are they going to say, well, you know what? We're going to cut back the battle pass points. Okay, from 20 to 10, or we'll do it to 15, or what? I don't know, but they're just giving directives. You don't even get reserves anymore. You don't get credit boosters or experience boosters or free experience boosters anymore. This right here, the reward system, is going to be the detriment of this mode, in my opinion. It's the tier 9s were not so bad. You could deal with them. But the debt, and I hope they don't change bringing tier 9s in earlier and starting the game with them or something like that, or starting each battle with tier 9s. I hope they keep them at the certain sections where they have them, because that at least made it advantageous for you to keep playing your tier 8s. But if you were starting off with tier 8s against tier 9s, it's all over. But directives, seriously, I mean, that is absolutely just the worst reward, in my opinion. So now we'll go back. I'm going to give you my final thoughts, and we'll cut it there. Okay, so my final thoughts on FrontLines 2021. As far as tier 9s go, I think that's a bad idea. It didn't change my gameplay. It wasn't totally detrimental to me, but the ability to achieve the rewards like I was, or to earn the credits like I was obviously hampered. Running into tier 9 T95s, tortoises, crap like that at the bases was a huge pain in the ass. It did seem to change the mode of the game a little bit, and the fact that once a level was the second level was achieved by the attacking team, even if you were defending the first level, you started seeing tier 9s, right? So that made it difficult because you might have been doing very well in your tier 8, and all of a sudden, bam! Now you're facing T95s that are just rushing at you, and there's nothing that you can do at that point. Sometimes it did make it. I did see a lot of premium tanks, a lot more premium tanks than I normally did. I didn't see so many Progettos. I didn't see so many EBRs. I did see a lot of Barasks, a lot of Barask platoons, and those jackasses who like to run back into the mode that's been captured just to kill you at your spawn and hunt down the arty and crap like that. Still saw that. But overall, the game, even with the tier 9s, was not that different than normal. I didn't find it to be extremely hard that once you were running into tier 9s, that you just couldn't compete, that you had to eject from your tank and go get your tier 9. I found that you had to pick the tier 9s you wanted to play and that you were good at playing. Obviously, I think it brings out more of I'm a medium player, so I'm going to play my medium tier 9s, that type of aspects. And you had to be smart about the tier 9s you were picking. You didn't want to go and say jump into the T50, the Skoda T50, because that's an expensive tank. I didn't want to jump into my AMX 30 because that's an expensive tank to run. So yeah, I did a lot more in my E50, which wasn't so much more expensive and had good penetration values in its standard rounds. I think Frontline, Wargaming would be better off if they just did a tier 7 1 week, a tier 8 1 week, a tier 9 1 week, and a tier 10. I think if you wanted to do it that way, it'd be much more beneficial and probably a lot funner. Because then everybody's at the same tier, all things being equal. That's the biggest portion. Skill wise is skill. But my biggest and hugest complaint of Frontlines, and what I think is going to be a detriment to this mode, is the rewards. The rewards were just not worth it. It used to be that as you're progressing in Frontlines, you achieved the combat reserves. Okay, well now you get the little tokens and you got to go in and buy them. So if you don't realize this, if this bell doesn't go off in your head saying, I need to get different combat reserves. Now I got to go buy them because now it's just an extra step. Whereas before it just happened. You achieved them as you were playing. And then you can go in and just change it. Have I achieved a new combat reserve? No, not yet. Okay, I can keep. It's not the fact that have I achieved a new combat reserve because I haven't realized I got to go buy the combat reserve. That type of asinine stupidity, just game mechanics. It just doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? Why would you change that portion? And the fact that you didn't have any extra missions so once you achieved 15, what is it that you get? Battle Pass points are not the end all. I know you guys think that Battle Pass is just this greatest thing you've come out with since sliced fucking bread, but it's not. It's just not that advantageous for me. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I want, and I've done it the past this past 2.5 Battle Pass seasons, I just purchased it. I just spent the gold. I had the gold. I just spent it, and then I didn't have to worry about it. So making that my number one reward, plus we'll give you directives, which I don't use, just didn't make sense. I mean, directives, you didn't even give directives that could be bought for coin. All right. These directives can be bought for credits. All right. You gave directives that can only be bought for bonds. So if some poor sap somehow hits this auto resupply and then just starts playing, he's popping off for optics. He's popping off 8 bonds a game if he runs out of any in stock. For the fuel filter replacement, if he's running that, there's not even a price for it yet. How many bonds is this badass costing us? You know, stabilizers, 10 bonds a game. Bonds are not easy for the average Joe to come across. All right. Now, granted, yeah, you get bonds in Battle Pass. Okay, fine. But it's just not, it's not worth it. The rewards were just not worth it. And I think that will be the biggest complaint. My feedback for Wargaming is take the tier 9s out, make it back to tier 8. If you want to cut back on the you know the rewards, then figure out something outside of directives and battle pass points. Bring the credits back in. Credits get spent. Your economy's not going south. It's not changing the game. All right. Credits are going to be fine. Bring in the personal reserves. Don't cheap us. Don't try and cheap us just because you can. I mean, if money's that tight at Wargaming, then you need to do something else. All right? You need to figure out something else. Because if you start squeezing the purse strings on your player base and you're making it harder and less rewarding for us by adding all these little pay to play aspects that you seem to be going down, then people are going to get tired and get fed up. All right. That's my opinion. So I hope they change FrontLines in the next stage. Will I play it again? Yeah, I probably will. You know, just because it is a credit builder for me and I do enjoy the mode. But the rewards are not bringing me to the table anymore. They're just, it's not doing it. You have absolutely just nuked the rewards. So, in my opinion, FrontLines, if you don't like it, you won't like it any better. If you do like it, you might dislike it a little bit more. And is it really worth the grind? If you enjoy the mode, yes. If you don't enjoy the mode, then you won't do it. The rewards are not there to make you play it. So anyway, if you liked the video, hit the like button. Keep those videos coming. I greatly appreciate it. Please remember to hit the subscribe button. This is Bonsai Duck out.